All right, so good morning, everybody. I am Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for White Oak Self-Storage. Your lead reviewer is Parker Smith, and the purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions about the comments you received last week. I'll have Parker just highlight any of the major issues and then turn it over to the applicant. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Parker?
Yeah, thanks. So I don't think there are too many real major issues. This received approval of a conditional use in an LMA, I think less than a year ago. And we're seeing pretty much the same design. I guess the only two things I would flag is I just requested more sort of proving of case, I guess, on the compatibility with the buildings to the east, just because that was something that was brought up and discussed, granted with a different set of board members, but when the board saw the conditional use, they were asking all kinds of questions about that. So I think just having sort of our ducks in a row and exhibits showing that compatibility would be good. And then the only other thing I was just sort of curious and looking for new information about was public benefits. The recycling facilities plan or whatever that is something we don't deal with a lot. So I think we just need information. And in my comments, I provided a contact for someone who can help you with that over at DEP. But those are the highlights, and I can turn it over to the applicant team.
Great. Thanks, Parker. And thanks everyone for your comments. I think, Parker, you're right that these projects, these plans, I guess, look very familiar, hopefully to everyone, since they're virtually identical to what was approved by the council through the LMA in March and the hearing examiner through the conditional use in February. So I think today's DRC will be brief because of that. Obviously, the conditional use carries much the same details as site plan, which is unique. So we're in a position to have already worked out pretty much all of the details on these projects. We will want a follow-up meeting between Park and Planning and DOT to discuss some of the comments that DOT made with respect to circulation and connectivity. And then just had a very few kind of points of clarification. And Parker, you hit on two of them that we wanted to discuss during today's call. The first was on the recycling facility plan public benefit points. Appreciate you kind of raising that now. We certainly will work with DEP directly to develop that recycling facilities plan. And I think they issue like a letter that then can be included in the record. So we'll start working with them on that to get you more information. The other one on the compatibility, just wanted to, I guess, note for the record, this wasn't, I don't think, Parker, your comment, I think this came from DPS, but just as a reminder, the strict zoning compatibility requirements of section 4.1.8 don't apply here because the adjacent abutting zone is not ag, rural residential, detached, or townhouse. But we obviously know that the board, the previous board, was interested in us providing additional documentation and information regarding that compatible relationship at this stage of the process. So we included some sections within the site plan. They're on sheet SP005. So really just wanted to ask Parker for clarification. I know you had wanted that information in the sketch plan as well. And you may have to look at those and get back to us, but if those sections, if you're just looking for us to add those to the sketch plan application materials too, or if there was something different you were looking for.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think what I was looking for is just seeing that section with sort of the massing of the adjacent building also included, just for context. I think, unless I missed something, I think I remember seeing sort of that back building in elevation and or section, but not seeing, I think it'd just be helpful for the board and for sort of the public, I guess, to see that section extend all the way to the nearest building to show how that massing relates to the proposed back of the new building. Does that make sense?
So when you say massing, do you mean, sorry, there's an echo, I think, but do you mean extending it further onto the adjacent property, or you're asking for it kind of like that was in an elevation view? Are you looking for, or section view? Are you looking, we took it at two different section points, and maybe we can coordinate directly what you're looking for, because happy to provide it. I just want to make sure we're clear on what you're looking for. Or are you looking for like a 3D like aerial massing of that section? Because I'm not sure if we have all of the information for the adjacent property. I'd have to check to do that.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need anything elaborate like a 3D model or anything. I think I'm really just looking for an elevation that the view covers both the adjacent building and the proposed building.
Okay.
And you know, the adjacent building doesn't need to be anything more than sort of a square with the correct height on it, but just something to sort of show the massing of the two buildings and how they'll be, you know, compatible. With it understood that like this meets all the zoning, or I guess doesn't apply the actual compatibility standards in the zoning code.
Okay. Well, I think what we can do then is, why don't we take a first shot at kind of refining that a little bit further, and then we can coordinate via email before our formal submission to make sure we're on the same page.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. The next one that we just wanted to ask, it was a comment that Deepak, I think you had made regarding the kind of full build out. We certainly saw comments regarding kind of having both an interim section for New Hampshire Avenue and then a full build out, you know, section showing the full build out of New Hampshire Avenue. On the full build out, there was a comment made regarding adding the BRT within that section. We just wanted some clarity about what information we should use to model that, since obviously this section hasn't been designed yet. Are you just looking for us to provide kind of what's shown in the BRT master plan, or is there any more information?
Yeah, I'm actually looking for the right of way. If it's 130 feet, I think it was for the master plan. I just want to make sure that there's 130 feet right of way dedication provided.
Okay, but do you want us to also and the good news is we have more than that in terms of full right of way. Pat or Dylan can chime in, but I think it's like 140 something. Yeah, but do you want us to actually put the BRT in that section as well?
I would like to see that a final ultimate cross section if we can fit the BRT in there. But I just to make sure that there's enough right of way to fit that in. That's pretty much what I'm looking for.
Okay. Great. And then I think the last one was really actually just a point of clarification as well. There was a comment regarding the need to seek a parking waiver. And the hearing examiner actually approved the parking waiver in connection with the conditional use. So we're just reflecting that approval in our plan materials moving forward. So if there's additional documentation we need to submit with that, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, Liz, this is Matt. I think we want to make sure that we cover all the regulatory requirements for the parking waiver as part of the site plan. And we're in a weird situation here where we're governed by both the conditional use and the site plan. So we just want to make sure that we're not somehow, you know, missing a procedural point here that creates an issue for you.
Do you want, I mean, the way the parking waiver section reads, I think, is that it's like the applicable approving body. And so when we've done this before, where we've gone through conditional use and then followed with, of course, preliminary plan, which is a little bit different. If the hearing examiner is the first approving body, she approves the parking waiver, and then it's just kind of carried forward. But we could, if what you're looking for is just for us to kind of include that same justification that we had presented to the hearing examiner about all the specific findings, but noting that it had already been approved. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think so. And just making sure that it's all documented right at the front, you know, includes a parking waiver previously approved by the hearing examiner. I think that's all fine. It's just that, you know, in this case, the planning board is the approving body of the site plan. And so parking is a site plan element. And we just want to make sure that we're not somehow missing something. It's okay. A really unusual situation here.
Yes, it is. Okay, yep, we can include that, more of that information then within the statement of justification, and then coordinate if there's any more that you think you need. Great. I think that's all we had that we wanted to cover today.
Okay, and so you have everything you need?
We do. We'll just need that one follow-up meeting, and I don't know who we should coordinate for that with DOT and park and planning.
Okay, so you want to set up a work session meeting for next week?
That would be great. Okay.
The only thing is, Parker will be out next week. I'll be out next week.
Oh, okay.
Jury duty, I don't know yet.
Yeah, and Richard may be in jury duty. So
nice.
I think, Liz, if you could follow up directly with Parker, we'll make sure we're meeting together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
about that.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Brickyard Estates. Your lead reviewer is Alex Dupree, and this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. The purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions you might have based upon the comments you received last week. I'll ask Alex to highlight any of the major things we should talk about and then turn it over to the applicant. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, everyone. So this is the Brickyard Estates application. It's an administrative subdivision application. It's on New London Drive and Brickyard Road in Potomac in the RE2 zone and then 2002 Potomac Subregion Master Plan. The applicant is proposing 3 new residential lots. 1 lot, as proposed, would have access to Brickyard Road, and 2 would have access to the new connection between New London Drive to Brickyard Road. Some of our major comments on this is that we want to ensure that the 2 lots that are exactly 2 acres have been accurately surveyed, just because it's very close. And we are proposing that the applicant reconfigure the site to put all 3 lots along New London Drive with the homes closer to the road. This would help protect the existing tree canopy on the southern end of the property. And then lastly, we have already received public correspondence on this, so this will have to be escalated to planning board review and approval. And so let us know if you have any questions on these comments or anything else that you saw.
Great. Thanks, everybody. This is Chris Rulin with Lord Shirley and Brewer representing the applicant here. We've got our team on the line, so why don't we quickly introduce ourselves? We can start with Patrick.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Horgan. I'm with Husker Consulting. We are the civil engineering firm who put these plans together.
Sure. Michael, are you on?
I am. This is Michael Taylor with AMT Development. We have the developer here.
Great. Thanks. And Bobby?
Hi, I'm Bobby Jaden, landscape architect for the project. I prepared the forest conservation plan.
Great. Thanks. So as was just said, we are aware that there has been some public correspondence on this. We've actually been in touch with, I think, the majority of the people that have sort of reached out about the application. There seems to be a lot of questions about the requirement for New London Drive. So, we'll field those questions the best that we can. But if staff could keep us apprised of any other correspondence, I think that would be helpful. It's not clear exactly if there's a dominant position about that right of way or not yet, but we are open to meeting with the public, and we have been already having productive conversations with them about it. So I think stay tuned. We do want to hit on a few questions, so why don't I hand it over to begin with to Patrick to kind of run down our list.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Yep. So a number of comments, but I think there's only maybe 3 to 5 I want to point something out on or ask a kind of a follow-up question, and I'll just kind of run through these as we go. Okay. So the first one is about a fire and rescue comment. It says roundabout does not appear to be compliant for fire department vehicle access. Detail show primary response route. So what I did want to point out here, and this may already be aware by everyone, is that the roundabout they're referring to is in the plan bottom left. It's at the intersection of Brickyard and I actually can't remember the name of that street right now. What is that? That is, well, anyway, it's the bottom left corner of the lot. It's at the intersection. That's an existing roundabout. It seems to be somewhat recently constructed. Don't know the exact date, but that's not really part of our proposed scope or improvements. So I just wanted to point that out. The second, and then kind of what the question I want to ask about this is, for the primary response route, I was looking up the locus or the clearest fire station, and that is to the plan north. It's called the Cabin John Park Fire Station 30. It's along Falls Road. So just looking at that quickly, it appears that the primary route would be down Falls Road and then down Brickyard Road coming from the north, and it would not be necessary to go through that roundabout. So kind of the question there is kind of detailing and showing that enough to kind of suffice this comment if the roundabout's not going to be used by fire when accessing the site.
Marie Laval's not on yet.
Okay.
Unless, actually, she might just have jumped on. Marie, are you able to answer the question? I see she's unmuted, but I can't hear her. Marie? All right, let's come back to this. Oh.
Sure.
She's in and out. Yeah, so let's come back to this when she gets better at reception.
Sure. All right. Next kind of item we discussed was one you brought up, which was the 2 lots in the front, lot 1 and 2 being, just right at 2 acres. So just for reference or, everyone's knowledge, a boundary survey was done by a Maryland land surveyor, and, the meets and bounds here were, signed and sealed by a Maryland PE. So, they should be, exactly accurate. And, there is a little bit of extra land on lot 3 if push came to shove that we could move that property line over to, if they were just under 2 or something like that. But I just want to know when they say certify the lot acreages, what are you guys looking for there? Are you just looking for a land surveyor seal on this in addition to the PEs? Or is there some kind of, template statement that they need to make to kind of address those concerns?
It's exactly what you said. Surveyor's seal.
Okay. Not a problem. Okay. I know this is a clarifying question. So this one is from Brett Brown, Area Transportation. He makes the same comment, I think, about New London Drive and Brickyard Road, but I'll just read the Brickyard Road one. It says, clarify the street buffer width, minimum width for open section road is 9 feet, but the default is 15. I was just unaware, we did design these for the, the recent county's, standards sections. And so I have to assume we're meeting this requirement, but I wasn't sure what the street buffer is. Like, what is that measured from, like edge of pavement to sidewalk, or what dimension exactly do we need to detail here?
Yeah, you're right. It's edge of pavement to sidewalk. So because it's both New London and Brickyard are open section roads, the minimum would have to be 9 feet. So as long as you satisfy that, you should be fine.
Okay, and the fact that obviously some of the area might be for trees or a swale, the roadside ditch, that's okay as long as there's 9 feet in between them.
Right. Yeah,
okay.
You just have to show that on the plan. That'll be the same for New London as well.
Okay, then that's easy. Other one, I think this is still from you, Brett. This is lot 1 and 2 contain 14-foot driveways. Why does lot 3 have an 18-foot driveway? I think the simple answer is just kind of the developer's preference, as the lot in the rear is going to be their primary residence. The question is, is there an issue with having different width aprons? Is there some kind of code requirement I'm not aware of, or is there something else that the county is concerned of that I'm just maybe not attuned to in this comment?
I think the preference is for them to all have the same width, just to maintain some uniformity. I don't see too much of an issue with it being 18. It's just kind of, I guess, kind of odd. I saw that and I was kind of wondering why the other 2 were 14 and then that was the only one that was 18.
Gotcha. Okay.
I can respond to that. This is a Tinkman share from the Department of Permitting Services, right of way. Our county standard typical driveway is 10 feet minimum and 20 feet maximum for residential. So if you're in that limit, I don't see an issue. And I do agree that conformity with the rest, uniformity is what we look for, but it's not necessary.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, and then I think the next area of concern we're going to discuss is kind of with the comment about reorienting the lots. But before I dive into that, I know maybe I'll hand it back to Chris and Bobby if you want to talk a little bit about that in particular.
Sure, Bobby, if I think probably you should go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Are we addressing forest conservation comments, you said?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think for the most part, the comments that we received were pretty straightforward. The largest thing which we're going to address as a team is the threshold requirements, which I guess were updated in beginning quarter this year. So we'll have to relook at the conservation and afforestation threshold requirements here. So we're going to work basically directly with the reviewer to come up with a plan that suffices to cite the requirement and make sure everyone's happy with what we propose moving forward. So, but I guess the most critical thing here is that the trees that were preserved in this plan that's on the screen now at the southern part of the site, that is the most critical environmental portion of the site, arguably, that has been left undisturbed for the most part. So the other thing worth noting in our NRI, which was approved, there was no existing forest that was documented on site. So as I said, otherwise, we're going to work with the reviewer pretty closely to make sure we come up with the best solution possible moving forward.
Okay, so did you want to discuss the reconfiguration of the lots that we proposed? It sounded like that was started and then it kind of drifted into the FCP.
I think the
If
issues
anyone
are real.
we could do fire department access now. I apologize for my issues.
That would be fine, Marie. And then I think we do want to come back to this point, and I think that those issues are related. So I think we can talk about that a little bit. So why don't we, Marie? Did you hear the question about access?
I did not. I cut out just at the wrong time.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'll just kind of hop back in and restate the question. So the comment was about the concern about the roundabout in the bottom left, or I think that'd be southwest corner of the lots at the intersection, Brickyard and a road right to the left in a residential neighborhood. So one, we were just pointing out that that is existing. That's not a proposed roundabout. That's not, as of now, that's not part of the proposed scope of the improvements on this project. What I'm hoping to...
But you're doing new development. That means existing access is subject to review for new development. So I need to know how your apparatus come in, and don't tell me it's existing and we don't have to do anything. It's existing, but we don't need it, or it meets code or it doesn't. I need more information to know whether it needs to be modified or not. It may not need to be, but I need you to tell me that.
Understood. Well, what I wanted to get at next was the second part of that comment was, it said show the primary access route. So the the closest fire station is up on Falls Road to the north. So the primary access route would be down Falls Road and then down Brickyard Road from the north. The trucks would be coming, they wouldn't be going through that roundabout to get to our site. They would be coming down Brickyard Road to the north. It's something we can certainly...
Those are your first two pieces, where your second two piece is coming from. You never get just one fire truck. You never get, for an EMS response, especially an ALS, which would be an asthma attack or a heart attack, you're getting an engine company and an ambulance. One of your first two company is out. So I didn't see a vicinity map. So I'm looking for, where do my trucks want to come from to get to this location? And I don't know that answer, because I do this for the whole county and I didn't take the time to look. So show me what I need to see to decide what we're dealing with.
Okay, and you're saying you need to see an access road from the two closest stations?
Certainly one from the north, one from the south would be more appropriate to make sure we get our first and our second due covered. And maybe they don't, maybe the southern truck doesn't need to come through the roundabout. Again, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. That covers that then.
Okay, would you like to discuss the reconfiguration of the lots, or are there any more comments that you would like to touch on?
Chris, did you want to talk about the reconfiguration of the lots, or did you? I know we definitely want to talk about that. That's a big change.
I think that the issue is that it's interrelated with how we're going to handle the forest conservation on the site, and that the plan as it was set up was sort of maximizing, I think, intended to maximize the retention of that. We're going to continue to look at that, look at the comments on the FCP, and see what, where that needs to go to respond to the comments. But I think that our thought was that this plan is probably the best configuration.
So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your attempt to preserve a lot of the trees in the southern area. However, we find that this configuration will impact a lot of mature specimen trees. And so this is a really big point for us and consequential for our review. And so we'll continue working with you to see if there's any other plausible configuration. We believe what we've proposed is actually meeting a lot of different review criteria from a design standpoint, from master planning and environmental, and additionally transportation, we see it as helpful. So if you have any more specific comments, let us know. And do you have anything you want to add, Doug?
Yeah, this is Doug Johnson, the environmental reviewer. One thing you really need to keep in mind is you're going to have to submit a variance request in order to seek relief under Chapter 22A 12B3. Right now, you have not submitted a variance request. And part of that variance request, you have to prove that there is an unwarranted hardship in this design layout. I've reviewed the proposed layout of the 3 lots up against New London. I actually find that to be much better. You have to preserve the vast majority of those 31 specimen trees in that southern grove. And you have to prove a hardship. I don't see that being able to be proved at this point, but you're going to have to show it. Because with the 3 lots or the 3 homes up against New London, that is a planning and zoning option you have not pursued, which will in turn actually may kick you out of the variance, and then you will not be able to impact or remove any of the specimen trees. So that's something you may want to keep in mind when looking at the proposed layout that was handed to you.
I just want to clarify, I'm not sure that we've received a proposed layout. Patrick, have you seen that come through? I didn't see it.
It's a document on E-plans. It's just kind of like a concept sketch showing them vertically off New London. Yeah, so I've seen it. So I do want to. So what is the variance we need to request? What criteria are we currently not meeting?
You're not meeting any of the criteria. Please read Chapter 22A-21, the variance section of the Forest Conservation Law, that outlines what you need to submit and what you need to prove. Like I was previously just saying, no variance was submitted for this property. So that needs to happen first, because without the approved variance request, you cannot touch any of these specimen trees. In addition, saving that tree stand on the southern portion of the property, you can actually apply it to your reforestation requirement under 22A and the regulations. So that's a little bit of an incentive to save as much of that as you possibly can. But the downfall is that you have to get a variance request, and you have to prove it that you are backed into a corner and you've exhausted all other possible options in order to impact these trees.
Okay, so we will evaluate that and get back to folks about those steps. Do we have any other questions that we want to hit on? Okay, so with that out of the way, I did want to ask about the process, understanding that, we have some analysis to do and potentially pull together a tree variance request. It was mentioned in an email that I received from one of the citizens, but did not receive directly from Park and Planning, that there is a thought that this would go to the planning board in an October timeframe. And I just want to get a sense of kind of the timing and the schedule under that piece. I think there's something in the code for administrative subdivisions that get put on track for a hearing, that they go to the soonest available date. But I think it'd be helpful to hear a little bit about the thoughts about the timing for this.
So as of now, you're on track to have an approval October 10th if you don't issue any extensions to us, and if we find in our review that it's ready for approval. My understanding, and the other folks here, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that October 10th will become the soonest planning board date within that time frame.
Okay, that's helpful.
So I believe your planning board date would be October 5th, because that's the Thursday within that time frame.
Okay, that's a helpful clarification. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, one thing, this is Mark Etheridge with Water Resources. By going to the board now, you have to have an approved stormwater concept prior to your board date. So I know we've done one review of the stormwater concept. We were lacking a lot of information to begin with. That is a difference between the administrative subdivision requirement and the board requirement. So I want to make you aware of that we do have to have that taken care of. So we'll want to get that in. I know that's something I think has been recently submitted to us.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
You have everything you think you need to make your resubmittal?
Patrick, anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.